Pebble top drain cover. We are remodeling our pool and have selected the blue granite pebble sheen finish. Which color pebble top drain cover do you recommend to go with our color of finish?
What I would say to do is use the lid that you can actually put the pebble sheen in and match exactly. So if you search it online, you'll find that there is a main drain lid that has the center section that you can literally, as they're pebbling the pool, could pebble that surface and then match it to the exact. So when they put it in place, it literally matches the entire shape of the pool. That's by far the best answer because that'll hide it almost 100% except for the edges of the grate where the water enters into the main drain. That is based on it being a 9-inch diameter drain, and that's my assumption because most drains are. Obviously, there's some square drains and some bigger drains and things, but my assumption is you're using a standard drain, and you should be able to get a cover that can take that pebble finish into the surface of itself so that it looks exactly like the rest of the pool.
All right. Question 2. Sandy gritty liner. I've read where a few other pool owners have asked about a sandy gritty buildup on their pool liners. My grandson has even come out of the pool with bloody toes from jumping up and down in an area over his head. The liner is only 5 years old and the floor and sidewalls are rough. This is a saltwater pool. For this conversation, let's assume the chemistry is in balance. My real question at this point is how do I get the floors and walls back to the smooth surface expected from a vinyl liner? And to follow up, then let's assume that the chemistry is not in balance. What do you think could have caused this?
Well, let's start with the second question first, and assuming it's not in balance. Obviously, of course, it would have to be tested and see what the chemical is, but likely this is a calcium coming out of solution, which means you have an imbalance. Your pH, being that it's a salt pool, your pH is continually rising, and that salt generating system, that's the chlorine generating system, it's called off-gassing, and when it off-gasses, because you're taking sodium chloride and H2O and you're turning it into chlorine gas, sodium hydroxide, and hydrogen gas, that hydrogen gas is what's called off-gassing. And what that does is when that off-gasses, it raises the pH. So first off, it's probably caused by an imbalance in your pH, but it could also be electrolysis. Another thing, if the pool, being that it's a saltwater pool, it conducts electricity very easily through the water. Pure water does not conduct electricity. Salt that is dissolved in the water allows electricity to flow through the water. And if you have a bad ground somewhere, there's a bond that's missing. If you don't have a zinc anode, which is called a sacrificial anode in the water, that could also cause basically electrolysis. And the electrical current in the water is taking the calcium and silicates out of the water that are dissolved in the water and sticking them to the surface. So first and foremost, you have to see what caused it, because you can try to remedy it, but if you're not dealing with what caused it in the first place, by removing it, you're not solving the problem. So then the first question is, how do you remove that? There probably is no really good answer, although what I would start with is take your sample of water in and have a full analysis done and find out exactly where it is. And if possible, scrape some of that off of the surface as well and see if that could be tested, because there are some chemical treatments out there that will slowly reverse and dissolve that off the surface of the liner. Although to the level that you're talking, that if it's not just gritty but rough enough that it's tearing up the kid's feet, I don't know. I don't know that I have an answer that it could be reversed. In a gunite pool, oftentimes what you can do is add acid directly right over that surface and see what happens, but I wouldn't recommend doing that in a vinyl liner pool. I wouldn't spray acid directly on it if possible. So I guess research in terms of any water chemistry people out there that could give you the better solution in terms of a chemical. There's several chemical manufacturers that they descale the water. They take the scale off the surface, and it takes weeks and weeks and weeks in brushing, and that's probably your best answer, is to find a descaler. You're going to use it in pretty high dosages and do a lot of scrubbing. But I would first find out what's causing it, because you can spend all the time and money to get it off of there, and if you don't fix the problem that initially started it, it's going to come right back. Do you have any particular chemical suggestions?